Hello and welcome to Fascinatingly Odd, Fantastically Queer, a podcast by JK and Darren. This week, it's just Darren. Me. Yeah. This week, it's just going to be my episode of me talking about my life, my queer journey, queer things that annoy me, or things that happen in the queer community that annoy me. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be very much a stream of consciousness episode. So prepared for me to be darting around here, there, and everywhere. But hopefully, I will come across more put together than I do in the normal podcast, where I'm kind of just rambling on about something and it doesn't really make any sense. So, my queer journey. I came out as gay when I was about 14, I want to say. It was in my Twitter bio on Twitter, obviously, and I think my sister's story and told my mum, and that's how I came out, and then my mum told the rest of my family, because, that's apparently what you do. So that's how I came out as gay. I've always been, quite a feminine person. I think everyone kind of assumed I was gay from, when I was very, very young. I loved Spice Girls, had little Spice Girl dolls, and things like that, but for me, it wasn't until I was in my, maybe first to second year of university, I discovered what non-binary was. I heard the term for the first time, and there was people on my course who were trans, and those conversations we were having more that I'd never had before. Where I grew up in Lewisham in southeast London, it wasn't something that we spoke about, not something that I'd really seen anywhere. I didn't really have many gay friends other than the friends that I had at school, in my secondary school, which was Elton Green, but none of us were either out really, none of us, no one really spoke about it. It wasn't a thing. I think I've been to heaven once when I was around the time I was 18, but other than that, I hadn't even really been out and experienced the gay scene or anything like that. So yeah, it was in my second year of university, second year of university, when I was up in Crewe, where my mind was open to these things. And when I heard the term non-binary, and that it meant being somewhere along the scale, but not even feeling like you were in the scale, it spoke to me, and I was it clicked. It felt like something. This is what I was. I could resonate with it really, really well. And so from then on, I've identified as non-binary. I use they/them pronouns. I'm quite regiment with they/them pronouns. I wear badges that say they/them, they/them on it, and say respect my pronouns and things like that. And for me, it's quite sad because I notice more when people use the right pronouns at me, and it makes me happy when someone uses the right pronouns at me. When really what it should be is I should notice more when people don't use the right pronouns at me, and that's when there should be an issue. But it's more I notice when people do use it because people don't use them enough. The non-binary community and identity at the moment I feel is very political, and I might get back onto that a little bit later in the episode. That's my queer journey, I guess, of how I came to identify how I did. Where we are for this episode, I probably should have mentioned before being 3 minutes into this pre-editing. We're in my flat. Well, I'm in my flat in Greenwich. I have a studio apartment. I say studio, it's a room with a bed, a kitchenette, and a bathroom. I spent 4 years flat sharing either at halls. I spent 3 years living in halls, and then a year living with other people. And I was just, I needed my own space and to do my own thing. It's not a big place. It's not the best place either. It's a budget place, but I enjoy it. I like it. I like having my own space. I'm very much someone that once I spent a day talking to people and being around people, even though I do love being around other people, I need my own space. I need my own time for me to just figure out what I need to do and, get my mind in check. So yeah, that's where we are. It's kind of I would almost say along the lines of Poonam was saying, it's a safe space, but it can also be a prison. It's a space on my days off, I don't like to stay inside and do nothing. I like to be going out, doing things, even if that's on my own. I like to go out, and I don't like wasting time. I like to keep busy. I think it's that's one of the things me and JK actually do have in common is we're people that like to keep busy. We like to be doing things, productive things, and just doing something. It's a conversation me and JK have a lot because he does so much, volunteering wise and actually work wise. He does a lot, and he burns out a lot too. And it's something that I'm you need to take time for yourself. You need to relax. You need to find things that you want to do, enjoy things, and to just have some time for you and relax. But he is very much someone that loves to keep busy. But I worry that he's going to burn out, and that's not cool. That's not something someone should be doing when they're 24, 26. I don't know how old he is, really. Oops. So me and my queer life at the moment, I work for an LGBT charity. Again, all my views are my own, nothing affiliated with said charity. It's quite easy to find if you go on my social media what charity I work for, but I'm not actually going to say it here. And it's amazing. I get paid to work in the LGBT community to somehow, somewhat help LGBT equality around the world. It's not focused in the UK, it's not focused in the US, it's focused in like places where it's still legal to be gay, it's not spoken about, and it's one of the most amazing things to be able to do, and I would never have dreamt about being paid to do that. I mean, I've spent, since my third year of university, since university, my second year and third year, I was like writing for free at load of media outlets. Again, another rant that I might get into later on, exploitation of queer people. But yeah, so I spent so much time writing for LGBT publications, trying to get like my name out there, trying to get experience and exposure, which then when I found out when I was trying to apply for jobs post-university, a lot of places that weren't queer didn't really want anything to do with me because I had only written about queer things or for queer publications, and they were like, oh, but you won't probably enjoy it here, so that didn't really help. But then in my postgraduate, I volunteered for National Student Pride as a press officer, which was really good, a lot of fun, a lot of stress. I met and made some really, really amazing friends from them who are really, really amazing queer people in their own rights. Student Pride, my time there was problematic, I want to say. It was the best time, but also one of the worst times of my life too. Again, maybe I'll get into it later. It's something that I've discussed on social media before, and I'm trying to move on and get past it. And I wish everyone who at Student Pride and the Student Pride event the best. And then also I volunteered for Pride in London. I was a events content editor for them, then moved on to be a project manager, which was really cool. Again, met loads of amazing people. There are lots of amazing people that work in Pride in London. Again, nothing's black and white in any of these organisations. You have an amazing time, amazing experience, you're doing something good for the community, but behind the scenes, I think that in both organisations, there's a lot going on and a lot happening that I didn't really want to be part of. And so at the organisation I'm in now, it's so amazing to be part of something that's actually making a difference, that's actually helping people, that's getting people together, getting queer people talking. It's amazing, and I'm so grateful and so happy to be able to do that. I kind of have to pinch myself, like, almost every day just to be like, oh my god, this is my life now, this is what I'm doing has a purpose, what I'm doing, there's a need to do it. And it's great, and I do comms stuff. So it's all the experience I've got from all my volunteer stuff, from what I did at university. It's just, it's a dream. It's a dream. So yeah, that's my queer life at the moment, I guess, somewhat. I don't tend to go out too often, as in on nights out. I used to go to places like GY and Heaven a lot. They're very cis-orientated for lots of the nights, like the Thursday, Friday and Saturday nights. They're very cis-orientated, very cis-gay man-orientated, and very cis-white gay man-orientated, which for me can be quite uncomfortable. I also find Heaven, or GAY at Heaven, to be very school disco-like, with university SU night now, and it's just not for me. I like to go to more like queer spaces. One of my favourite venues that I used to go to was Her Upstairs before it closed down. That was amazing. When I used to go there used to be groups of trans people, there used to be groups of queer people, people of colour. There used to be a variety of people there having a good time. Everyone felt safe, everyone felt comfortable, and they're the kind of places I like to go to. I often go to the Glory to see Virgin Extravaganza, a drag queen there. I love her show. She's really, really funny. Then last month I went to the Apple Tree, which is a really, really amazing queer venue. I was really shocked. Went to the toilets, gender neutral toilets. Like on the doors, the identifier for the toilets was like a picture of a person standing at a urinal and a cubicle, and then the other one was just a cubicle. And then the accessible toilets as well, I think it was just an accessible label, I'm not sure. But in all the cubicles, they had tampons on a tray. Amazing. How cool is that? And then they had sanitary bins in all of them too. And it's like, it's this easy. I don't understand why it's that difficult to make spaces trans inclusive and just, gender neutral and inclusive to the whole LGBT plus community. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But it was amazing. I loved that place. Other than the fact it was so warm in there. But I went there to see Apples and Pears, which was a lot of the drag queens from Her Upstairs went there. So Meth was performing, Galoo was performing, Flynn Rider, Cheryl Hull, and it was really, really good. A really good night. I think they do it every 2 weeks, and I'm gonna go back next month or next week, depending on when this podcast comes out, to go again. But it was really, really good. I've really enjoyed it. But they're the kind of things I like doing in my spare time. I like going to see queer acts, queer entertainment, not just drag queens and drag shows or drag artists, but just queer things. I surround myself in the queer community, I guess, a lot of the time, which I guess can be problematic because you end up in a bubble that's not a true bubble to reality. But I also think, make your own reality. Life is shit. The world is shit. Make your own reality. Make yourself happy. Valentina on All Stars 4, although it was kind of psychopathic a lot of the time, there was something I think you can take from her idea of, thinking you're the best and just living in your own world, doing what you want to do, what makes you happy, and just thinking about you. I don't think that was a bad thing. I think she may have taken it a little too far. Like, knowing when you've done bad and when you fucked up is kind of important too. But actually, do what makes you happy. Do you. It's your life. We spend our life too often worried about what other people think or worried about everyone else's opinion, and it can stop you from doing so much. We spend our lives looking for validation online and forget that actually do what makes you happy. Be as creative, as logical, or whatever as you like, but just do you, because it's your life. You only get one. And although that's a very utopian idea of way of thinking about things, because, there's a lot of things that stop you from doing that, but do your best to be happy. I think. Oh my god. Am I rambling on? Is anyone actually listening at this point? If you're listening at this point, please tweet me at what Darren said, or message me on Instagram at mxdarren, just to say, oh, I've got this far into it, or tweet me, or message me on Instagram, saying chicken noodle soup, and if you say that to me, then I'll know you've got this far. Do I sound like an influencer? Leave a comment, subscribe, call me Jeffree Star. No, please don't call me Jeffree Star. I can't. I'm not a racist. The tea, the shade, the awkwardness. I'm someone who has a lot of opinions, and I share a lot of my opinions, and they get me in trouble sometimes. I mean, there's a few publications that I know would never want me to write for them again or anything like that because of opinions and stuff I've shared. But also, sometimes it's my truth, and a lot of times it's the shared truth. And if you can't take that, and if you've done something wrong, and I'm someone who will try and educate and do it in the nicest way possible to an extent, but I'm not going to be a bitch for the sake of being a bitch. So, if I'm calling you out for something, then, listen, talk to me. I'm not going to bite your head off. I'm not going to shout at you. If you're coming from a place of ignorance, I'm not going to shout at you. I'm going to try and educate you to the best of my ability as long as you listen to me. But that's happened in the past. So, yeah, back to the influencer thing I just said. Am I an influencer? I don't think I am. I feel like the term influencer, just like when we were talking about in Poonam's episode, the term activist and influencer, they get watered down when everyone starts calling themselves it. It get watered down when people start changing the meaning and things like that. And again, don't think that's a bad thing. Things change, times change. But the idea of someone being called an influencer, because you post things online, you're influencing other people. I don't know if I like that. Really, that's not what we should be doing online. We shouldn't be trying to influence other people. We should just be trying to talk to other people, share our opinions, have a community, it's called social media, be social on it, not try and influence people. And I get that's what happens on social media, people are influenced, but I don't think that should be the goal, and I just don't like the term influencer. I'm someone who posts stuff online, I share my opinions, I try and be a positive representation for the non-binary community, the queer community, because I know how much shit that we all go through. So I'm someone that tries to, combat that and tries to help as much as I can. And yeah, a lot of times the people that are called influencers are assholes. I'm sorry. Especially white cis gay ones in the UK. A lot of them are freaking dumb. For people who, make their brand about being LGBT influencers, LGBT plus influencers, a lot of time they do things that are so problematic that they should know better and they should be doing better, but they don't. And that bugs me a lot. As someone who's experienced them being shitty towards me and doing stuff that I'm like, that's not okay, that's not cool, you should know better. But they don't a lot of the times. I'm like, I get a lot of them are 27, 33. Actually, no, that's not that young anymore. Y'all should know better. I mean, you spend your lives around the LGBT community, you surround yourselves with LGBT things. You shouldn't be misgendering people, especially when you're asking them to be on a video as a non-binary person. That's not cute. You shouldn't be saying stupid racist things. You shouldn't be... It's just dumb. But these people are the people that are supported. They have a following, and I'm just like... Why? Like... Why? Just why? I'm also drinking wine at the moment, so if you do hear me slurping occasionally, it's because I'm drinking a Sauvignon Blanc, and it's horrible. But it's also alcohol, and I want to drink alcohol right now. It's Friday. Or when I'm recording this, it's a Friday night. But yeah, and the reason why they are where they are is because they're pretty. And this isn't just a thing for, just Instagram, this isn't just a thing for, influencers. But I've noticed on social media in general, if you're pretty, you're white, and you have a gym fit body, you get what you want in life. Everything kind of comes easy to you. People listen to you. People give you things. People want to know you for doing absolutely nothing. Imagine that, not having to do anything, but getting everything you want just because of the way you look. I can't relate, won't ever relate, don't want to relate. I am someone who likes to work for everything I do and everything I have. I'm someone who speaks up and speaks out when I see things that are wrong and when I see injustice, and I'm not going to be someone that will ever stop doing that. I'm someone who's open to learn, open to hear other people's opinions and views, because I don't think there's anything good that comes from people who won't listen to other people's sides and who get angry. I don't think activism should be angry. That turns people away. It makes people get their backs up. It just causes arguments, and that's not how things change. Through arguments, I don't think. I mean, there's a place that's happened in the past, but now I don't see that as the way we should be trying to achieve equality. I don't know where that rant came from. I don't know what I was talking about beforehand, which says a lot about me. I feel like this episode, I'm showing myself out to be just a complete and utter mess of a human being. If you are someone out there who doesn't know a lot about the LGBT community, wants to know more about the LGBT community, maybe more about the queer community. I try and say queer community more than I say LGBT plus community now, mainly because, one, LGBT plus, people get annoyed with the plus because it's like, well, my identity isn't just a plus. Like, I'm non-binary, so I'm technically falling to the plus side, or and sometimes I identify as queer as well. Plus doesn't make me feel included. And also, there's so many issues with LGBT. There's a lot of trans exclusionary radical feminists, aka TERFs, who identify as L, G, or B, who don't want the T part of the community. There's a lot of gay people who don't see T as part of the community. They see as it should be a sexuality and gender identity are two separate things. So there's a lot of this internal kind of struggles going on, and I think sometimes the LGBT plus kind of just squishes it down. And I'm someone who's very much like, I see a lot of time I see a difference between people who are part of the queer community than people who are part of the LGBT plus community, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but in my mind, there is a difference between queer and LGBT plus. Somewhat. I do think they interlink. I do think they are the same thing to an extent. I don't know if I'm making sense right now. But if you're someone who identifies as maybe as queer and wants to educate yourself some more, or wants some things to read, let's do a book club. Just a one-person book club. So I'm actually just picking up some of the books and maybe just general things that I read. Okay, so here I'm going to list some books that I think are quite cool around the LGBT plus / queer community. The first one is Transmission. I'm out of breath from that. First one is Transmission by Alex Bertie. My Quest for a Beard. So it's about his journey as a trans man, which is really, really good. It's aimed at quite a younger audience, I would say, just because of how it's laid out in the book. But it's really interesting. It's really good. I've literally only got halfway through it. But it is really good. It's really cool. It's nice to read about a trans man. A lot of the time, the LGBT plus queer community does revolve itself a lot around trans women and trans feminine people. Now, I understand why that is. I understand trans women and feminine presenting non-binary people are often the ones who face the most violence, the most attacks, and the most discrimination. So they're the ones that do need the bigger voice and to be shown that actually we're equal as everyone else. I get that, I see that, but that doesn't mean the other side, trans men, non-binary people who present more masculine or more androgynous, don't deserve to have a platform or don't deserve to have a voice. because it erases them and eradicates them, and they need to be seen and they need to be heard. So yes, I understand it from both sides, but as someone who's non-binary, who's been told multiple times by cis gay people, normally cis gay men, that I don't present non-binary enough, which isn't a thing, because non-binary means you don't conform to gender norms or gender expectations. Because I don't present, basically they're saying because I don't present feminine enough, people are going to misgender me, and people are going to look at me as a cis gay man, because they're misinformed, because they don't see that actually being non-binary means you can present masculine, you can present feminine. It doesn't matter how you present, it's about how you feel. There's a trans boy that I know, trans man that I know on Instagram called Riley, and he presents quite feminine and is often told how that he's not trans because he wears dresses and stuff still, and like wears makeup, and actually he identifies as a trans man, but he just presents femininely. There's a difference between gender expression and gender identity, and yeah, I think there needs to be more discussion around trans masculinity, trans men, and non-binary, and a wider discussion on non-binary people, because I don't think it's wide enough yet. It's not there yet. Maybe we'll get into it later, because I'm biting my tongue at the moment. But yes, the person I was talking about, the Riley, the trans man, their Instagram is Riley Bambi. So check them out if you want to see a really, really cool trans person who, one, their Instagram account is just freaking awesome. But actually, their stories and what they talk about a lot of the time, he does say some really amazing and interesting things that's worth a listen if you want to widen your understanding of what it means to be trans. So yeah. And he also has a boyfriend who is also really fucking cool. So yeah. Anyway, back to books. Alex Bertie's Transmission, good book. Another book that I started reading, again, I buy lots of books, and like a lot of times I don't finish them. It doesn't mean they're not good. It just means I've moved on to something else, but I will end up going back to it. It's coming out by Jeffrey Weeks, and it's the emergence of the LGBT community in Britain from the 19th century to the present. Interesting, it's cool, it's a really good book. Yes, especially whereas it's the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Riot. It's good to remember that there was like LGBT people before that, and LGBT people fighting for LGBT rights before that. I know last year at Student Pride, I went on a queer bus tour with Dan Delamotte, which was amazing. He does, I think, weekly, monthly queer tours around London. You go to different places. They're not always on the bus. This was for Student Pride, it was on the bus, but it's normally walking tours of places in London that queer things happen in, or queer people are known for having queer stories. It's really, really amazing, really, really interesting. How he says the stories and stuff and does it is so cool. Like, he's a really, really, really interesting person. So that's something I think to check out too. Let me see if I can find it on his Twitter at the moment, but that's something that if you're in London and want more of a queer education, go to that. See if you can book yourself on a place in that, because you'll learn a lot. I learned a lot on that I didn't know that are in London, that you wouldn't ever think about happening in London. So that's a good one to go to. His Twitter is Dan, DELAMOTTE, and then on his account he's got a link to queertoursoflondon.com, which is something to check out because they're really, really cool. So yeah, another recommendation there. This podcast is going to be full of queer recommendations, and I hope you appreciate it, and I hope you check some of them out. Another book that, if you're someone who's more visual, doesn't want to do too much reading, but wants to see some queer people of note, then I picked up a book called 50 Queers Who Changed the World, a celebration of LGBTQI+ icons by Dan Jones, illustrated by Michelle Rosenthal. I picked this up at the Tate Modern, I think, but I'm sure it's on Amazon. These will all be on Amazon, I'm sure. And it's really, really cool. So you have about a page of information about that person and a really, really nice illustrated picture going through loads of different queer people from history up till now. RuPaul's in there, Andy Warhol's in there, Candy Darling, Ron Woodruff. Oh my god, I'm dyslexic, so reading out loud gives me fear. Jake Miller, to name but a few. Freddie Mercury. I'm gonna stop going on now. But yeah, that's a really good book if you're more like a visual person. Good book to look at. Another book. Now this is a slightly different kind of vibe, but it's a book nonetheless, and it has LGBT things. It's called Diversify, and it's by June Sprong. And let me try and find the blurb for this, which I don't think I'll have, mainly because it's a hardback book and the dust cover I don't have here, because I like to take the dust covers off books though to keep them nice. But it's a book about how we can learn and take power from diversity and having an inclusive environment. It talks about LGBT people, people of colour, women, and how what the segregation and things that have happened to those marginalised societies and those marginalised groups, how actually that can benefit the world and how that plays a part in society. It's really interesting. It's really cool. It's a good book to read, and it's not a book that's like written like a university essay. Moving on to the next book I'm about to talk about is written like a university essay, but you can still make sense of it, you can still read it, it's still good. And then because it's written like a university essay, there's loads of other books within the book that you're like, oh, I can go read that now, that sounds interesting, I'll go find that. So the next book that I'm reading at the moment, it's called Fabulous. It's not the name of the book. Fabulous, The Rise of the Beautiful Eccentric by Madison Moore. So a queer person of colour wrote this. I've done research into this one more than the others, so that's why I can tell you this. But it's a queer person of colour wrote this book, and it's about fabulousness and how that relates to queer people and queer people of colour especially, and how that's changed the LGBT community, how it's a source of political power, and what it means to be fabulous and express fabulously. It's really, really cool. It's really interesting. I'm really, really enjoying reading it. There's a section in the middle that has colour pictures, and honestly, as someone who's trying to push gender boundaries in how I express and trying to dress more androgynous and push myself and just wear things that I think are cool, things that are interesting, which I struggle with a lot, don't get me wrong. I think too much about what other people think of me and how people look at me, so I often don't do that. But it's something I'm trying to do more and trying to push myself out of my comfort zone to find my comfort zone, to find my political power in how I express. That sounds weird. It sounds like there's lots of contradictions in there, but I know what I'm thinking about. I know I have a vision of how I want to look and how I want to express. But sometimes I don't have the confidence to. I don't have the willpower to do it. I don't feel like I'm in the safest environments to do that. But it's something I play with here and there, now and then. And this book is really, really fascinating and really, really good at encouraging me to want to do that more often, because it talks about so many other people that have done it and what it can do for society and the amazing things it can do for society and for yourself. And to be like, actually, just the way you dress, the way you look, the way you present says a lot to society, especially when it's feminine identities too. It's cool. I like things like that. And the last book, this one's for the Drag Race fans out there. It's called Alright Darling, Contemporary Drag Scene, foreword by Alaska Thunderfuck, but it's by Greg Bailey. I think this book at one point was available in Urban Outfitters, but it's more of, again, very much big pictures, loads of drag queens who have and haven't been on Drag Race, and like a quote from them about drag, or about gender, or about the LGBT plus community. It features queens like Alaska Thunderfuck, Courtney Act, Darian Lake, Jinx Monsoon. I'm trying to find pictures of queens that haven't been on Drag Race. There are queens that haven't been on Drag Race in here. There's Meths in here. UK Queen Meth. But when she's a lot younger, because this doesn't look like Meth now. Unless it's a US version of Meth. But I don't think it is. It very much looks like Meth's makeup. Just Meth when she was younger. Wow. Throwback Thursday. It's not Thursday at all. So yeah, that's a good book. I'm flicking through it now. I'm not talking to you. Did this in Punions episode. But yeah, it's another good book if you want to see some more about drag and some drag queens. That's not completely focused on the US apparently. Victoria Sin's in here. She US queen? I don't know. I should know that. But yeah, so there's some book recommendations if you're a queer person that likes to read. If you're a queer person that likes to do things on social media. But on Instagram, I shout out a lot of cool queer people. I shout out a lot of cool queer creatives too, and I share my opinion on things. So yeah, Instagram, follow me on there. This episode is literally just full of plugs. It's just literally going to be me just saying plug me. And if you're a media outlet watching this, I am also a journalist. I've written for pretty much all of the big LGBT publications in the UK. So if you want to me to write for you, I would love that, because I haven't done that in a while. and I would like to get back into that. That's a long shot. This is now audio CV. This episode is going so well. This wine tastes like battery acid. Normally, the wine that I like to... Oh shit, I just spilled on myself. Oh, it's going well. Normally, the wine that I like to drink is like £3, and it's from Tesco. It's like Tesco's own brand wine. It's £3. I think it's like 7.5%, which isn't the biggest, but like, if I have a bottle of that as a pre-drink, that's good. I'm having a good night. But it tastes very, very fruity. I like a fruity wine, fruity Zinfandel, fruity rosé. Yeah, I like the ones that you can't really taste are alcoholic. This one's very bitter. And I feel like it's dry, but I don't know. I don't know what that means, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I like cheap and cheerful. That's just me in general, cheap and cheerful. Yeah, I don't know why I decided to talk to you about wine. The funny story is, though, after me and JK and Poonam recorded that episode, we went to a cheese and wine place, and I'm lactose intolerant. So that was interesting and fun experience after that episode. Just a behind the scenes TMI exclusive there. Not TMZ, TMI. I'm not funny. Can you tell? So how the podcast works, I feel like a lot of the time, is like JK's this sensible, wanting to be professional one, and I'm the one that's just here for a laugh. Like, I'm here for a good time, having a nice chit chat with these cool queer people that are, some of them are my friends, some of the people I would like to be my friends, and I'm the one that edits the episodes. I don't know if you can tell that, especially in Poonam's episode. I feel like I very much came through in my personality in that one, and a lot of the time I just put them up. I don't let JK listen to them and to give me notes to change them, other than the first episode. Mainly because I know he's gonna be like, oh, can we change this? Can we change that? And I'm just like, no, I like how I've edited it. I like how it sounds, so that's how it's going up. So I don't like really give him the choice, because he very much wants a professional vibe from it, and I'm just like, no, like, it's rustic, it's cool, it's edgy, it's different. Like, we're not trying to be super profesh with it. It's a queer podcast that's talking to queer people about their queer stories and trying to be somewhat politically engaged and politically forward, and, you know, a type of activism, I guess, but it's also not like rigid and strict and defined, and I like that. I like that every episode has its own vibe to it, its own style to it, and no matter how much I edit it, those vibes and those styles come through. So yeah, JK will probably say the complete opposite, and he probably hates the fact that I'm the one that edits them, but I'm the one that edits them. This is a wild Friday night for me. Drinking wine, talking to a microphone. 22, almost 23. Potentially when this comes up, I'll be 23. And I am living the life. But then again, this is something that, you know, considering I'm sat here drinking wine, is a conversation I probably shouldn't be having, and it's probably quite ironic that I'm having it. But I'm all about irony and being two-faced and stuff. That's like my brand, other than my eyebrows. This is a tangent. But back to what I was actually talking about. The queer community revolves itself around alcohol so much. To a point where, like, I go to events that there doesn't need to be alcohol there. It's 3 p.m, but they'll be giving out alcohol. And I'm like, why? Why does the queer community surround itself with alcohol when sometimes there isn't a need? Like, literally, I was at an event a few weeks ago, and it was outside at like 5:30, but there was a whole table full of alcohol, beers, wines, and I'm like, people have come straight from work from this. Like, no one's eaten dinner yet. You haven't actually got food here, but you're giving out alcohol. And this is a talk about trans and non-binary inclusion in an industry. Why are we giving out alcohol for? Like, I don't understand. And then afterwards, oh, we're all going to a pub. Why is it always constantly surrounded by alcohol? Even when you think about pride events, they're surrounded by alcohol. Nowadays, they're more of a big piss up than anything else. Why does the queer community surround itself with alcohol? Can someone please tell me? Because I think it's a problem. I think it's an issue. And if you're a queer person that doesn't drink, you're often left out and often not included in a lot. I went through a stage last year where I wanted to cut back from alcohol. It really affected my mental health. It still does. But I found that I can't. Like, you just, being part of the queer community, you have to have alcohol to be included. And I don't like that. I don't understand it. And I think it's something that needs to be looked into. There needs to be something done for, like, how and why is the LGBT plus community so obsessed and find that they need alcohol. I mean, we know that LGBT plus community has an issue with drugs, you know, chemsex, just drugs in general. There is problems there, and I think alcohol is very much part of that. And it's often, I don't think, talked about enough. Like, we don't talk about it enough, we don't look into it enough, and I wonder why. I just do very much wonder why that is. I haven't got an answer or a solution. I don't think it's something that's ever probably going to change, but I can see it there as an issue. I can point it out as an issue. I could rant about non-binary representation or non-binary activists within the UK and how a lot of them are feminine presenting. Some of them, and this isn't actually just non-binary activists, I'm doing inverted commas in the air, but a lot of activists in the UK aren't activists. Not in the UK. A lot of people who call themselves activists these days aren't activists, they're influencers, or people, because I don't like that term, people who are online celebrities. That's what they are. But they call themselves activists, and actually what they're doing is self-promotion and trying to make a name for themselves, but making it seem like they're doing activism. I have an issue with that. I find that problematic. And I put this on social media at one point, and a lot of people said to me, but can they not be the same? Can you not be someone who self-promotes and that be a form of your activism? Could be. How I see it, and when I look at certain people, I don't see it like that. I see it as, no, you're exploiting the LGBT cause and LGBT equality to make a name for yourself, so you can be someone that people ask to be on panels, to write for magazines and stuff, because of who you are, not what you've done. And that's not activism. Activism should be about what you're doing, not about your face. Your face shouldn't be the centre point of your activism, because activism is about a community, isn't it? Not about your self-gain. And I do get that a lot of activists do become people of interest, especially in today's world, but there's a fine line of still calling yourself an activist when you're not being an activist anymore, you're just a public figure. Queer icons. Let's talk about some queer icons. Who are some of my queer icons and people I look up to? Queer people who I look up to. There are a lot of people I really look up to. So there's a lot of people on Instagram. There's someone called Ben Petchley, who is a life and fashion blogger. They are non-binary. They are really cool, really down to earth, really funny. Their Instagram stories are very inspirational, very funny, very chatty, very much. Ben Petchley is Ben Petchley. They're their own brand, and it's amazing. And they're just a positive bubble. Every day they do daily quotes. So there's a quote from someone, just a bit of inspiration every day, because everyone needs a bit of sparkle every day. So they are amazing. There's a woman called Chloe Davis, who is going to be on this podcast at some point. They may have already been on this podcast by this time this one goes out. She is amazing. She is a black bisexual woman. That's not her whole identity, don't get me wrong. But she is passionate. She is intelligent. She is determined, and she's strong-willed. And I think they are things I look up to and aspire to be like. And she's making a name for herself out there, but doing it in a way that, you know, she's a good egg. She's very much a good egg. There's someone called Charlie Mathers, who's a bisexual journalist, who is amazing. She struggles a lot with mental health problems, but that never has defeated her, never has beaten her, and makes her stronger in a way, and I think it makes her vulnerable, but relatable. I'm getting emotional right now. But she's someone awesome. There's a queer photographer called Matty Parks, who's very adorable, very sweet, very positive, very real. I've met him once, and it was like we've been friends for years. He was amazing. He's done things for Gay Times, which is a publication that I adore. They're doing the right things and good things. But yeah, Matty, follow them on Instagram. They are awesome. Their lip syncing skills are amazing for someone who doesn't do drag anymore. They used to be a club kid or have a club kid persona, but they killed them off. They're talented in not just photography, which is, I'm all about multi-talented people. There is an Italian singer called Andrea Di Giovanni, who I can't put into words, is someone who I find so inspiring and so awesome. They, on social media, they talk about issues and things, and they're very blank, they're very straightforward and like to the point about it, and I think that's really, really great. But they use their platform to talk about LGBT things. They were on BBC One, I think, at one point, on radio, BBC One radio, and they were talking about queer rights. They were on there to talk about their song. He was on there to talk about his song, and he decided to talk about queer rights and queer issues, and I think that's freaking amazing. Like, you didn't spend that whole time talking about yourself. You decided to talk about an issue and a cause that's passionate about you to an audience that might not be always listening to that and be aware of it. And I think that is amazing, and it's something I know they will continue to do throughout their career. And their career, they're going places. I really hope they go places, because they are amazing. They genuinely are amazing. Charlie Craggs, I don't know how to say her name, but she is stunning. She's a trans activist and model. Her book, oh my god, I didn't mention her book earlier, but her book, she wrote a book, To My Trans Sisters, and it features loads of like trans women or trans people, but like they write a letter to the reader, who is assumed a trans person, about just how to deal with life and how to get through life, either whether that's through your transition or not through your transition. And that's an amazing book that I'm reading. It's on my windowsill at work. That's why I didn't mention it here, because I haven't got the physical copy here with me. But Charlie Craggs in general, she created Nail It, which is a movement, a brand, a thing that's trying to get the trans emoji flag, or championing the tourists to get the trans emoji flag, which has been the most requested flag for the last 3 years, I think, and it hasn't happened. Other than that, but she's also, the whole idea of Nail It is it's a pop-up nail salon that goes around the country, and you can get your nails done by a trans person. So it's like you're holding hands with a trans person. You get to talk to a trans person in a very human way. Charlie now does a lot of panels and talks. So if she's ever at a panel or talk near you, dear listener, do go and see her. She is amazing and so funny. I was at a panel with her a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, she had the room of stitches, but was still making a point and still being like, still has smarts, still was intelligent, but doing it in a way that, you know, an audience was engaging with, which I think is key and very, very important. Hello, my name is Wednesday. I think the name's Wednesday. They're a queer trans artist and activist, and they are amazing. They are really, really inspiring, encouraging, cool, intelligent. What they say has a message, has a point. Their artwork is amazing. Please do go check out their artwork, because their artwork is so cool. But that's someone else who I 100% aspire and look up to too. But I think that'll be enough for like the queer shout outs in this video. But that's one thing I like to do with my platform, my voice, is to shout out, highlight and talk about other queer people who are doing queer amazing things. Because I think a lot of time in the queer community, there isn't a lot of space. There isn't a lot of opportunities. And we so often feel that we're in competition with each other. And I think that's an issue. We're not in competition with each other. We've all got our own vibes, our own wants, and our own representations, our own voices. And I think it needs to be remembered and it needs to be highlighted that we're all unique. We all got our own things to say and our own issues. And being in competition with each other gets us nowhere. Do it your way. And even if you're not being as heard as much as someone else, you're not getting the same opportunities as someone else, whether that's fair or unfair, because life isn't fair or unfair, it's neither. People are listening to you, people do see you, and whether it's 100,000 people, 10 people, or one person who is listening to you, who looks up to you, who is inspired by what you do, that's better than nothing. And as long as if you can inspire someone and keep someone going and be someone that someone can look to as a mirror, then you're doing a good job, sweetie. You're doing good, sweetie. To quote Mama Jenna, I can't remember her name right now. So that's what I like to do. I like to just raise voices of other people and just shout out about other people who are doing really amazing things. Because why not? Why not tell the world when people are doing good things? Because we often can highlight and talk about people who are doing shitty things and doing the wrong things. Because people often do that. People have faults. And, you know, a lot of the time, the people who are in the spotlight and getting all the attention are shitty people. So let's talk about the people who are doing good things and raise their voices and make them feel good. That's where I got a bit, like, really deep and serious. Well, as deep and as serious as I can get, because I'm not a very serious person. I'm not. I'm silly. And a lot of people misconstrue silly for stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm intelligent. And I know I'm stupid. I know I'm intelligent. And that's not me being big-headed. That's just me being self-aware. I mean, I have a freaking master's degree. Come on. I'm not dumb. And if you think I'm dumb, that's you underestimating me. And that's one of the worst things you could do, is underestimate me. Although, it is quite dumb for me to be drinking this wine that I do not like. It is like the last bit of the bottle, though. And then I've got my Tesco's wine ready to go. So, pumping up the jams for Friday night. And I think that's where I will leave this episode before I drink any more wine. Or say anything that's really going to get me in trouble. Because there has been some tea spilled in this episode. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got to see a different side of me. A more in-depth side of me. I hate my voice. And I could just heard me saying me. And it sounded very... which is irritating. But yeah. I will see you... Hear from you. You'll hear from me. We don't see each other. You'll hear from me very soon. If you're not following me online. But you should. And don't forget to follow FOFQ podcast on Instagram and Twitter. This podcast oh, the book's falling over. This podcast is my baby. It's something I'm really, really passionate about. I'm so glad that JK and I got together to do this. I remember I tweeted out just saying that I want to do a podcast. And he was like, so do I. Let's do it. And it took a few months to get this fleshed out and to start, but I'm so glad we have. I'm so glad for where it is, where it's at, where it's going. It's really, really something that I'm passionate about and I am going to be sticking at and working on. I'm sure JK will too, if he can withstand being around me and how annoying I am. But JK is a special person in a lot of ways. He's a very, very good egg, passionate about what he does, and I'm so thrilled that he's my podcast co-host. He puts in a lot of work for this podcast too, and it's going places. And you will keep hearing from us for the rest of this year, so thank you very much for listening, dear listener. You'll hear, like I just said, you will hear from me again soon. I'm not going to say catch you on the flip side, because that's not my catchphrase. But I don't really have a catchphrase. When I used to do YouTube videos way back then, my outro used to be bye, a bit like Alaska's hi. So maybe I'll just do that. Bye, blah.